There's a brain state that makes time disappear, turns work into play, and multiplies your performance by 500%. Elite athletes access it. World-class musicians live in it. And neuroscientists finally cracked the code. But here's what nobody tells you: you've been blocking it your entire life. Have you ever been so absorbed in something that 3 hours felt like 20 minutes? Where distractions vanished and you performed at a level that surprised even yourself? That wasn't luck. That was flow state. And the reason you can't access it on demand has nothing to do with talent or discipline. While everyone tells you to focus harder, meditate for hours, eliminate distractions, you're still stuck grinding through work like you're pushing a boulder uphill. You put in the hours, but the magic never happens. The zone stays out of reach. Does this sound familiar? There's a neurological phenomenon that scientists call transient hypofrontality that explains exactly why flow feels so rare. And when you understand how it works, peak performance stops being random and becomes reproducible. But there's a problem. What you call trying to focus is actually what's preventing flow. You're not unlocking your potential, you're strangling it with effort. Before I show you what neuroscientists discovered, leave a like below and comment: what activity makes you lose track of time? Drop it below. Alright, let's get back to the video. Chapter 1, The Paradox. Let me tell you Sarah's story. She's 24, a graphic designer freelancing while building her creative studio. Every time she opens her design software, she feels her chest tighten. She works for 8 hours but only gets 2 hours of actual quality work done. The rest is starting, stopping, forcing herself to concentrate. She sees other designers producing stunning work seemingly effortlessly. Meanwhile, she's working 12 hours a day. Inspiration boards, productivity apps, focus playlists. But her best work doesn't come. And worse, she starts to resent the craft she once loved. Sarah's problem wasn't a lack of effort. It was that she was trying too hard. And her brain knew it. She forced it. Sat at her desk for 8 hours even when nothing was happening. Pushed through creative blocks using sheer willpower. Caffeinated herself into alertness and guilt herself into continuing. But hours logged are not creativity. They're just time spent. Sarah was trapped in a cycle that seemed dedicated but was just exhausting herself. Creating had become torture because she was trying to force the only thing that can't be forced: flow. One day, exhausted in a coffee shop, Sarah noticed someone left a book, Stealing Fire, by Stephen Kotler. She opened to a random page about Navy SEALs, athletes, and CEOs all chasing the same brain state. Then she reads something that makes her stop cold. During flow, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for self-monitoring and effortful thinking, temporarily deactivates. This is called transient hypofrontality. You literally think less, and perform better. The part of your brain that tries to control everything, shuts off. She kept reading. When you enter flow, your prefrontal cortex dims. Time perception warps. Self-criticism vanishes. Performance skyrockets by up to 500%. Sarah sat there for an hour. She wasn't working. She was having a complete reframe. She realized she wasn't failing to enter flow. She was actively preventing it by trying so damn hard. Chapter 3, The Inversion. The next day, Sarah did something completely different. She opened a blank canvas and instead of planning and controlling, she asked, "What would I create if nobody was watching?" She just played. Threw shapes around with zero agenda. No goal. No judgment. Just experimentation. Weird colors. Random textures. Breaking her own rules. And then it happened. Her inner critic quieted. She lost track of time. Her hands moved faster than her thoughts. She wasn't deciding what to do next, she was discovering it. She looked up. 90 minutes had passed. It felt like 15. That's transient hypofrontality. Your prefrontal cortex shutting up and letting your brain's deeper processing take over. When she looked at what she'd made, it was good. Really good. Better than anything she'd forced in months. The output wasn't the result of more effort. It was the result of less interference. Chapter 4, The Science. Here's what neuroscience discovered about flow. When you enter flow, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for self-criticism, conscious planning, sense of time, and sense of self, temporarily deactivates. That's not a bug. That's the feature. When your prefrontal cortex dims, you stop overthinking. You stop judging yourself. You stop experiencing time anxiety. And in that space, your brain's implicit processing takes over, the part that's faster, more creative, and way more capable than your conscious mind. Flow isn't about thinking better. It's about thinking less and accessing the intelligence your brain already has. That's why athletes describe it as letting the body take over. Why musicians say the music plays itself. Why programmers talk about the code just flowing. It's not metaphor. It's measurable neuroscience. Chapter 5, The Transformation. Sarah learned that flow has prerequisites. Clear goals, but not rigid plans. Immediate feedback, seeing results in real time. Challenge skill balance, 4% harder than current ability. Low consequences, removing fear of failure. Instead of forcing 8-hour blocks, she worked in 90-minute bursts when conditions were right. Her friend said, "You can't just work whenever you feel like it." But Sarah discovered, 2 hours in flow produces more value than 20 hours of forced grinding. Her work quality exploded. Clients noticed. One said, "Your recent work has this aliveness to it." But the most profound change wasn't in her portfolio. It was in who she became. She stopped treating her brain like a machine needing discipline. She started treating it like an instrument needing the right conditions to sing. Chapter 6, The Lesson. Here's what Sarah finally understood. You don't have a discipline problem. You have a brain state problem. Flow isn't something you force. It's something you allow by creating the right conditions. Stop fighting against your brain's natural operating system. When you make that shift, everything changes. Work ceases to be effortful and becomes effortless. Each challenge is no longer draining, it's energizing. The problem was never your potential. It was trying to access it through force instead of flow. Closing. The question remains, are you ready to stop grinding and start flowing? 6 months later, when others are burned out from pushing, you'll be operating from a completely different paradigm. The next time you sit down to work, don't ask, how do I force myself to focus? Ask, what conditions would allow flow to happen naturally? Then create those conditions and get out of your own way. If this video helped you, subscribe to Rewired System and turn on notifications. Tell me in the comments, what's one activity where you've experienced flow? Remember, effort is not the answer. Flow is. Thanks for watching. Until the next video.